After I dropped my daughter at the subway that night, I thought everything was normal. Then our groundskeeper, who had worked for us quietly for years, called me, his voice shaking. "Sir, come home now. Please don't tell anyone." I turned the car around, my mind racing, trying to understand what could possibly be wrong. When I arrived, he showed me something hidden inside my own house. And in that moment, I realized my life was already being dismantled piece by piece. Thank you for being here. Before we go any further, I'd love to know, where are you watching from today? Leave a comment below so I know you're with me. And just so you're aware, this story blends real-life lessons with dramatized details for educational and storytelling purposes. Any resemblance to real people or places is coincidental, but the message behind it is important. I should have known something was wrong the moment Marlo asked me to drive her to the subway. My daughter, 30 years old, a lawyer with her own car, her own life, hadn't asked me for a ride in over a decade. But that Sunday night, she called while I was finishing dinner and said, "Dad, can you drop me off at the station? I need to get back to the city." Her voice was flat professional, like she was asking a colleague for a favor instead of her father. I said yes. Of course I said yes. Brooklyn in February is unforgiving. The kind of cold that seeps through your coat and settles in your bones. As I drove down the empty streets toward the subway station, the yellow streetlights cast long, skeletal shadows across the brownstones. Most of the neighborhood was dark families already tucked in for the night, curtains drawn, lives hidden behind brick and glass. Marlo sat in the passenger seat, staring out the window, her reflection ghostly in the glass. I tried to start a conversation. "How's work?" "Fine. You look tired. Are they working you too hard?" "I'm fine, Dad." Her answers were clipped, mechanical. She didn't turn to look at me. Not once. I thought about asking her to stay the night. Her old room was still there, untouched, since she'd moved out 8 years ago. But something stopped me. Maybe it was the way she gripped her leather briefcase on her lap, knuckles white like she was holding onto a life raft. Maybe it was the way she wouldn't meet my eyes. Or maybe it was the fact that for the first time in her life, my daughter felt like a stranger. We pulled up to the station at 9:28 p.m. The platform was nearly empty, just a few late-shift workers and a couple of college kids huddled against the cold. Marlo unbuckled her seatbelt before I even put the car in park. "Marlo, thanks for the ride, Dad." She opened the door, letting in a gust of icy air. "Wait." I reached over, almost touched her arm, but she was already halfway out. "Are you sure everything's okay?" She paused. For a second, just a second, I thought she might turn around, might sit back down and tell me whatever was eating at her. But instead, she adjusted the strap of her briefcase and said, "I'm fine." "Really? Okay." I forced a smile. "Call me when you get home." "Sure." She shut the door. I watched her walk toward the turnstile, her heels clicking against the pavement, her posture rigid. She didn't look back. Not when she swiped her Metro card. Not when she disappeared down the stairs. Not when the train's headlights appeared in the tunnel, casting her shadow long and thin against the tiled walls. The train pulled in with a metallic screech. Doors opened. Marlo stepped inside, found a seat by the window. I waited, engine idling, hoping she'd glance up, wave something. But she pulled out her phone and stared at the screen, her face illuminated by cold blue light. The doors closed. The train lurched forward. And just like that, she was gone. I sat there for a minute, hands still on the steering wheel, watching the empty platform. A crumpled coffee cup rolled across the concrete, pushed by the wind. Somewhere in the distance, a siren wailed. When did we become this? I thought about the last time Marlo and I had really talked. Not the surface level, "how are you" exchanges, but the kind of conversation where she actually told me what was going on in her life. I couldn't remember. Maybe Christmas, maybe Thanksgiving. The months blurred together, and suddenly my daughter was a stranger who needed a ride to the subway. A memory surfaced, unbidden. Marlo, at 10 years old, sitting at the kitchen table watching me check the stove twice before we left for her soccer game. "Dad, why do you always check twice?" I'd crouched down to her level, tapped her on the nose. Because, kiddo, it's better to be safe than sorry. You check once, you might miss something. You check twice, you know for sure. She'd grinned. So, you're like a superhero making sure everything's okay. Something like that. She'd hugged me then, her small arms wrapping around my neck, and whispered, "You're the best dad ever." I blinked. The subway platform came back into focus, cold, empty, lifeless. That little girl was gone. In her place was a woman who couldn't even say goodbye. I put the car in drive and pulled away from the curb. The streets were quiet. I turned on the radio, some late-night talk show host droning on about the weather, but I couldn't focus. My mind kept circling back to Marlo, to the way she wouldn't look at me, to the tension in her jaw, to the fact that she'd called me instead of taking her own car. Why? I was 2 blocks from home when my phone rang. The screen lit up Griffin Lawson. I frowned. Griffin was our groundskeeper, had been for 7 years. Quiet guy, mid-40s, the kind of person who showed up on time, did his work, and left without needing small talk. He'd never called me this late. Never called me at all, actually. We usually communicated through text or in person. I pulled over, tires crunching against the curb, and answered. "Griffin." His voice was low, urgent. "Mr. Whitfield, come home. But don't go inside the house." My stomach tightened. "What?" "There's something I need to show you. Something you need to see before you talk to Mrs. Whitfield." "What are you talking about?" A pause. I could hear him breathing fast and shallow, like he'd been running, or like he was scared. "Sir, meet me at the tool shed. The one out back. Park down the street, don't pull into the driveway. And please," his voice dropped to a whisper, "don't let Mrs. Whitfield know you're here." The line went dead. I sat there, phone still pressed to my ear, heart pounding. The street was dark, silent. Through my rearview mirror, I could see my house 3 blocks away, the porch light on, warm and inviting the way it had been for 26 years. But Griffin's words echoed in my head. "Don't let Mrs. Whitfield know you're here." Suddenly, that warm light didn't feel welcoming anymore. It felt like a warning. "You said I parked 2 blocks down," killed the engine, and sat in the darkness for a moment. My hands were still gripping the steering wheel. My heart hammered against my ribs. Through the windshield, I could see the faint glow of my porch light in the distance, steady, familiar, ordinary. A house I'd lived in for 26 years. A house that suddenly felt like foreign territory. I forced myself to get out. The February air hit me like a slap. I pulled my jacket tighter and started walking, keeping to the shadows along the sidewalk. The neighborhood was dead quiet. No cars, no voices, just the occasional rustle of wind through bare tree branches. I cut through the Johnsons' yard, my shoes crunching softly on the frost-covered grass, and slipped into my own backyard through the side gate. The tool shed loomed ahead, a squat silhouette against the dark sky. Griffin was waiting by the side door, hands shoved deep in his jacket pockets. When he saw me, he didn't wave, didn't speak. He just nodded once and motioned for me to follow. I glanced toward the house. Through the kitchen window, I could see Margot moving around, pouring herself a glass of wine. She looked relaxed, content, like it was just another Sunday night. My stomach turned. Griffin touched my arm lightly, pulled me back into the shadows. He didn't say a word, just led me around the far side of the shed, where a set of narrow concrete steps descended into the ground. I'd lived here for over 2 decades, and I'd never noticed this entrance. I'd always used the basement door inside the house. Griffin clicked on a small flashlight, the beam cutting through the blackness. "Careful," he whispered. "Steps are steep." We descended into the basement. The air was thick, damp, smelling of old concrete and something faintly metallic. Griffin swept the flashlight across the room, past the furnace, past the shelves stacked with paint cans and Christmas decorations I hadn't touched in years, until the beam landed on the far corner. And then I saw it. A black duffel bag, unzipped, overflowing with cash. Stacks of $100 bills, rubber-banded in tight bundles. Next to it, a cardboard box with the flaps open, stuffed with papers. And sitting on top of the box, a a small USB drive with a handwritten label in black Sharpie WF Financial Records, 2019 to 2024. I stared. My brain refused to process what I was looking at. What? What is this? Griffin stepped closer, keeping his voice low. This morning around 8:30, I came down here to grab some fertilizer. I heard voices. Your wife and a man I'd never seen before. They were arranging all this, taking pictures, organizing the documents. I stayed hidden behind the shelves until they left. Pictures? Yeah. The guy had a camera. A good one. He photographed everything, the money, the papers, the USB drive. And Mrs. Whitfield was just standing there watching him work. Smiling. The word hit me like a punch. Smiling. I moved forward on autopilot, my legs shaky, and knelt beside the duffel bag. My hands trembled as I reached inside and pulled out one of the bundles. Crisp $100 bills. 50 of them. I counted the visible stacks, 30 bundles, maybe more buried underneath. $150,000. I dropped the cash like it had burned me. Griffin crouched beside me, shining the flashlight into the cardboard box. There's more. I pulled out a ledger, one of those old-fashioned accounting books, with columns and handwritten entries. I flipped it open. The handwriting was neat, meticulous. Dates, transactions, dollar amounts, and at the bottom of every page, a signature. My signature, except I'd never touched this ledger in my life. This is fake. I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I didn't write any of this. I know. Griffin reached into the box and pulled out a stack of papers. Contracts, real estate agreements, loan documents, all of them on my company letterhead, all of them bearing my name, my signature. Keep looking. He handed me a manila folder. Inside bank statements from an offshore account. The account holder was listed as Graham Whitfield. The balance, $487,000. I stared at the numbers. I'd never opened an offshore account. I'd never even heard of the bank listed on the statement someplace in the Cayman Islands. This is insane. I stood up, pacing in the small space, running my hands through my hair. Someone's framing me. Someone's trying to... Embezzlement, fraud, money laundering. Griffin's voice was grim. That's what it looks like. I turned to him. Did you see him? The man with Margot. Griffin nodded. He pulled out his phone, tapped the screen, then handed it to me. I took this through the crack in the door. Didn't want them to know I was here. I looked at the photo. A man, early 40s, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing an expensive suit, charcoal gray, perfectly tailored. Dark hair slicked back. Strong jawline. He was standing next to Margot, one hand resting casually on the small of her back. In his other hand, a professional camera, and he was smiling. Not nervously, not guiltily, confidently. Like a man who knew exactly what he was doing. Margot was smiling too, looking up at him with an expression I hadn't seen on her face in years, an expression she used to save for me. Do you know who he is? Griffin asked quietly. I shook my head, unable to look away from the photo. No. I've never seen him before. Mrs. Whitfield called him by name, I heard her. What name? Griffin hesitated. Damien. The name echoed in the cold basement air. Damien. I scrolled through every conversation I'd had with Margot in the past year, every dinner, every weekend, every quiet moment. She'd never mentioned anyone named Damien. Not once. Who the hell is Damien? I muttered. Griffin didn't answer. He didn't need to. I pulled out my own phone and started taking pictures. The duffel bag with the cash, the ledgers with my forged signature, the USB drive, the offshore bank statements, the contracts, every piece of this nightmare captured in grainy smartphone photos. My hands shook so badly I had to retake several shots. Griffin watched me, his face drawn with worry. Mr. Whitfield, what are you going to do? I stopped phone halfway raised and looked at him. This quiet man who mowed my lawn and trimmed my hedges, he'd just saved my life. If I'd walked through that front door tonight, if I'd come home like I always did, this evidence would still be sitting here, waiting, waiting for someone to find it, waiting to destroy me. I can't go to the police, I said finally. Not yet. They'll think I planted this. They'll think I'm trying to cover it up. Then what? I looked back at the photo of Margot and Damien, at the way his hand rested on her back, at the way she smiled. I need to find out who he is, I said quietly. And I need to figure out exactly what they're planning. Griffin nodded. Whatever you need, I'm here. I met his eyes. Why are you helping me? He was silent for a moment, then, 5 years ago, my son got hit by a car riding his bike home from school. Shattered his leg in 3 places. The surgery, the physical therapy, the hospital bills, it came to almost $40,000. Our insurance covered maybe half. I was drowning Mr. Whitfield. I came to you hat in my hands, and you wrote me a check that same day. No interest, no contract. You just said, pay it back when you can. I barely remembered the exact amount. I just remembered Griffin standing in my office, his eyes red, his voice breaking, as he asked if there was any way I could help. You saved my family, Griffin said. Now I'm saving yours. I stared down at the evidence one more time. The cash, the forged ledgers, the USB drive with my initials on it. This wasn't just about money. This wasn't just about an affair or a divorce. This was about erasing me. And whoever Damien was, he'd done this before. I could feel it. The way everything was so carefully arranged. The way my signature had been perfectly forged. The offshore account with my name on it. This was the work of a professional. I couldn't go home. Not tonight. Maybe not ever again. Griffin and I stood at the top of the basement steps, the tool shed dark and silent around us. Through the trees, I could still see the glow of my kitchen window. Margot was probably finishing her wine by now, maybe scrolling through her phone, maybe texting him. The thought made my hands curl into fists. What are you going to do? Griffin asked quietly. I don't know yet, I said. But if she finds out, I know she'll move faster. I need time to think. Griffin nodded. You need a place to stay. I'll figure it out. I pulled out my phone, typed a quick message to Margot. Got caught up with a work issue. Staying at the office tonight. Don't wait up. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. Griffin watched me, his face tense. Be careful, Mr. Whitfield. You too. And Griffin, I met his eyes. Thank you. For everything. He just nodded. Then he slipped back into the shadows, heading toward his truck parked down the block. I waited until his taillights disappeared around the corner before I moved. My phone buzzed as I reached my car. Margot, okay. Don't work too late. Love you. I stared at the message. Love you. 2 words she'd said to me 1,000 times over 26 years. 2 words that now felt like a knife between my ribs. My hands shook as I typed back, love you too. I threw the phone onto the passenger seat and started driving. I didn't have a plan. I just knew I needed to disappear for a few hours somewhere Margot couldn't track me, somewhere I could think clearly. I drove east away from Brooklyn, crossing into Queens, as the city lights blurred past my windows. The streets were nearly empty at this hour, just the occasional taxi or delivery truck rumbling through intersections. I found what I was looking for on a quiet stretch of road near the airport, the Skyline Motor Inn, a squat 2-story building with flickering neon and a parking lot full of pickup trucks and beat-up sedans. The kind of place where you paid cash and nobody asked questions. Perfect. I parked around back, grabbed my laptop bag from the trunk, and walked into the lobby. The air smelled like stale cigarettes and industrial cleaner. Behind the counter, a bored teenager with headphones barely looked up as I approached. Room for the night, I said. $80. Cash or card? Cash. He slid a registration card across the counter. I scribbled a fake name, John Marshall, and handed him 420s. He gave me a key attached to a plastic diamond-shaped tag. Room 24. Checkouts at 11, he muttered, already back to scrolling on his phone. The room was exactly what I expected: thin carpet, a sagging double bed, a TV bolted to the dresser. But it had a desk, a chair, and a Wi-Fi password taped to the nightstand. That was all I needed. I locked the door, dropped my bag on the bed, and opened my laptop. The photos Griffin had sent me filled the screen stacks of cash-forged ledgers, the USB drive, the offshore bank statements. And the photo of Damien. That smug, confident smile. That expensive suit. The way his hand rested on Margot's back like he owned her. Like he owned my life. I opened a new browser window and started searching. Damien Cross fraud. Nothing relevant. Just a few LinkedIn profiles, a Facebook page for a guy in Texas who definitely wasn't him. Damien Cross, financial crime, still nothing. I tried variations. Damien Cross, embezzlement. Damien Cross, Boston. Damien Cross, New York. Dead ends. Whoever this guy was, he'd covered his tracks well. Then I remembered what Griffin had said. This was the work of a professional. If Damien had done this before, maybe he'd used a different name. I searched Financial Fraud Boston 2018. A dozen news articles popped up. I clicked through them, scanning headlines. Most were about corporate scandals, insider trading, nothing that fit. Then halfway down the second page, I found it. Boston architect sentenced to 8 years for embezzlement fraud. I clicked the link. The article was from March 2019. A man named Albert Mitchell, a respected architect, married one daughter, had been convicted of embezzling over $200,000 from his own firm and laundering money through offshore accounts. The evidence was overwhelming: forged documents, hidden bank accounts, recorded conversations. He'd maintained his innocence throughout the trial, but the jury hadn't believed him. He'd died in prison 2 years later. Heart attack, the article said. I kept reading. Buried near the end of the article, a single line caught my eye. Mitchell's wife, Susan, had filed for divorce 3 months before his arrest. She was represented by attorney Daniel Crowley, who also served as a financial consultant during the investigation. Daniel Crowley. I typed the name into Google. A few old LinkedIn profiles. A mention in a Philadelphia news article from 2021 about another fraud case, this time involving a real estate developer named Matthew Prescott. Same pattern: embezzlement offshore. Accounts a wife filing for divorce. And the same name buried in the footnotes: Daniel Crowley, financial consultant. My chest tightened. 2 men, 2 fraud cases, 2 wives who'd filed for divorce. And the same consultant, Daniel Crowley, involved in both. Damien Cross, Daniel Crowley, different names, same face. I grabbed my phone and dialed Vernon Mills. Vernon had been my best friend since college. We'd lost touch for a few years after graduation, but when I'd moved to Brooklyn and started my firm, Vernon had shown up at my office one day with a toolbox and a grin, saying he'd heard I needed an electrician. We'd been close ever since weekend barbecues, playoff games, the kind of friendship where you didn't have to explain yourself. If there was anyone I could trust right now, it was Vernon. He answered on the third ring, voice groggy. Graham, it's midnight. What's wrong? Vernon, I need your help. Something's happened. A pause, then alert now. Where are you? Queens, the Skyline Motor Inn, room 24. I'll be there in 30 minutes. Vernon arrived at 12:50 a.m., knocking twice on the door before I let him in. He was wearing sweatpants and a Mets hoodie, his gray hair sticking up in every direction, but his eyes were sharp, focused. Talk to me, he said, shutting the door behind him. So I did. I told him everything. Marlowe's coldness, Griffin's call, the evidence in the basement, the photos, the offshore accounts. I showed him the pictures on my laptop. I told him about Damien Cross, about Daniel Crowley, about the two men who'd gone to prison and died there. Vernon listened without interrupting. When I finished, he sat down on the edge of the bed, rubbing his face with both hands. Jesus, Graham. Yeah, you need to call the police. And say what? I turned the laptop toward him, showing him the photo of the duffel bag full of cash. That I found $150,000 in my own basement. That there are forged documents with my signature all over them. They'll think I did it. They'll think I'm trying to cover my tracks. Vernon frowned. But Griffin saw them planting the evidence. Griffin's word against Margot's. And she'll have Damien or Daniel or whatever his name is backing her up. He's done this before, Vernon, twice that I can find. Both times the husband went to prison. Both times the husband died. Vernon's face went pale. What are you saying? I'm saying if we go to the cops now, I'm finished. I need real evidence, something that proves Damien set this up. Something that proves Margot was in on it from the beginning. How do you get that? I stared at the photo of Damien on my screen. That confident smile. Those dead eyes. Well, I don't know, I admitted. But I have to figure it out fast. If they think I'm onto them, they'll accelerate the plan. And I'll end up like Albert Mitchell and Matthew Prescott. Vernon stood up, pacing the small room. Then he stopped, turned to me. You said Griffin took a photo of this Damien guy, right? I nodded. Then we start there. I know someone who can help, a buddy of mine from my Navy days. Tech guy. He's done security work, private investigations, that kind of thing. If anyone can dig up dirt on Damien Cross or Daniel Crowley or whoever the hell he is, it's Silas. Silas Crane. Best hacker I've ever met. If this guy's got a digital footprint, Silas will find it. I felt a flicker of hope. Can you call him? It's 1 a.m. Vernon, my wife is trying to frame me for a crime I didn't commit. Please. Vernon pulled out his phone. Yeah, okay. Let me see what I can do. I hadn't slept. By the time dawn broke through the motel curtains, I'd replayed everything 100 times, the evidence in my basement, Margot's smile in that photo, the offshore accounts with my name on them. Vernon had texted at 6:30, Silas can meet. 8 a.m. I'll pick you up. Now I sat in a back booth of a rundown Queen's diner, nursing burnt coffee and trying not to look as paranoid as I felt. The place was nearly empty, just a construction crew at the counter and an old man with a newspaper. Vernon slid in across from me, carrying 2 more coffees. He'll be here in 5, Vernon said. You sure we can trust him? Vernon's expression hardened. Graham, Silas pulled me out of a burning engine room in the Persian Gulf. If I trust anyone, it's him. I nodded, hands shaking around my cup. Silas Crane arrived at 8 sharp, shorter than I'd expected, maybe 5'9", with a wiry build and sharp eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. Salt and pepper hair, military short, gray hoodie over a black t-shirt. He carried a laptop bag. Vernon stood, clasped his hand. Thanks for coming. Always. Silas's voice was quiet, controlled. He slid in next to Vernon, his eyes assessing me quickly. You must be Graham. Thanks for the short notice. Vernon says you're in trouble. He pulled out a sleek laptop, opened it. Let's see what we're dealing with. I pulled out my phone, swiped to Griffin's photo, Damien standing next to Margot in my basement, that confident smile. This is the guy, I said, sliding the phone across. Damien Cross. Or Daniel Crowley. Maybe something else. I need to know who he really is. Silas studied the image, nodded. Give me 10 minutes. He connected a device to his laptop and transferred the photo. His fingers flew across the keyboard programs. I'd never seen Windows filled with code and databases. Vernon leaned back, sipping coffee. Silas did this for naval intelligence. If there's a trail, he'll find it. 10 minutes. Silas didn't speak, just typed, clicked, cross-referenced. Finally, he exhaled and turned the screen toward me. Here's what I've got. A grid of photos filled the screen. 6 different men, same face, different names, Silas pointed. This is your guy. Real name Damien Cross. born Newark, 1983, but he's used aliases for over a decade. He clicked through. Daniel Crowley, Boston; David Preston, Philadelphia; Derek Morgan, Chicago; Dominic Hayes, Seattle; Cameron West, Miami. I stared. 6 names? No, at least. Could be more. He pulled up articles, court records. He targets wealthy professionals in divorces or financial stress, works with the wives, plants evidence, frames the husbands for embezzlement, fraud, money laundering, then splits the assets after conviction. My throat tightened. How many victims? Silas hesitated. Confirmed 2. Albert Mitchell, Boston, 2018. Architect, convicted of embezzling $200,000, died in prison 2020. Heart attack. He pulled up another article. Matthew Prescott, Philadelphia, 2021. Real estate developer, money laundering conviction, died 2023. Also heart attack. Vernon swore. I felt ice in my veins. Albert Mitchell's daughter, she thinks it wasn't natural. Silas nodded. Sloan Mitchell, lawyer. Lost her license for 2 years. Damien forced her to testify against her father, threatened to expose her own embezzlement. She's been trying to expose him since, but no proof. He's too careful. The other cases: Chicago, Seattle, Miami. Similar patterns, but records are sealed. NDAs. Somebody's paying to bury this. I gripped the table. 6 men. How many still alive? Silas's expression darkened. 2. And 1 is you. The diner felt too bright, too small. I wanted to run, scream, drive home and confront Margot, but I forced calm. What do I do? Silas closed the laptop. If you go to police now, they'll arrest you. Damien's already planted enough evidence. You need proof he set you up, and the only way is to get ahead of him. I need access to your home network. If Damien and your wife communicated, it's through email, text, encrypted apps. I can pull their messages, files, call logs, but I need in without them knowing. How do you do that? Silas smiled faintly. Remote access. I'll install monitoring software on your router. Runs invisible in the background. I'll see everything, every email, file, transfer, website visit. Vernon leaned forward. How long? Set up an hour. Pulling useful data days to weeks, depending how careful they've been. I thought of Margot at home, thinking I was oblivious. Damien planning his next move. How do I give you access? Silas pulled a small USB drive from his pocket, slid it across. Go home. Plug this into your router. It installs automatically. Then leave. Don't stay. Don't talk to your wife. Just go. I picked up the drive. Smaller than my thumb. That's it. That's it. Vernon looked at me. Graham, if you do this, there's no going back. Once Silas is in, we're all in. I met his eyes, then Silas's. I'm already all in, I said quietly. The moment they planted evidence, they made their move. Now it's mine. Silas nodded. One more thing. If Damien realizes we're onto him, he'll vanish. You'll never get proof. So act normal. Install the drive, pretend nothing's wrong. Pretend my wife isn't destroying my life. Exactly. We left separately. Vernon first, then Silas, then me. I sat in my car, staring at the USB drive in my palm. This was it. Fight back or let them win. I started the engine and pulled onto the street. The morning sun felt too bright, the traffic too normal. Somewhere in Brooklyn, Margot was probably pouring coffee, scrolling her phone, planning my destruction. But now I had Silas. I had Vernon. I had a plan. For the first time since this nightmare began, I wasn't just reacting. I was hunting. The hardest thing I've ever done was walk through my own front door and smile at my wife. It was Tuesday evening, February 5th, just past 6 o'clock. I'd spent the day at the office pretending to work while my mind churned through everything Silas had told me. Now I stood on my porch, keys in hand, staring at the warm glow spilling through the windows. Inside, Margot was cooking dinner. I could smell garlic and rosemary. Smell the life we'd built together over 26 years. A life that was a lie. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. Graham. Margot's voice floated from the kitchen, bright and cheerful. Is that you? Yeah, it's me. I hung my coat on the rack by the door, forced my hands to stop shaking. Through the archway, I could see her stirring something on the stove, her back to me. She wore jeans and one of my old college sweatshirts, her hair pulled back in a loose ponytail. She looked so normal, so perfectly, heartbreakingly normal. I walked into the kitchen. She turned, smiled, wiped her hands on a dish towel. I made your favorite, she said. Roast chicken with rosemary potatoes. Thought we could use a nice dinner together. You've been so distant lately. Work's been crazy, I managed. She stepped closer, tilted her head, studying my face with those blue eyes I'd once thought I knew. You look exhausted, honey. Are you feeling okay? Every instinct screamed at me to back away, to call her out, to demand answers. But Silas's voice echoed in my head. Act normal. Pretend nothing's wrong. I'm fine, I said. Just tired. She reached up, touched my cheek. Her hand was warm, familiar. You work too hard. You need to take better care of yourself. I wanted to flinch. Wanted to grab her wrist and ask her how she could stand there touching me, lying to me, planning my destruction with a smile on her face. But I didn't. I just nodded. You're probably right. Come on. She squeezed my arm gently. Dinner's almost ready. Go wash up. We ate in the dining room. Margot talked about her day. Something about a book club, meeting a friend's birthday party this weekend. Did I want to go? I responded on autopilot, nodding, murmuring agreement. The chicken was perfectly cooked. The potatoes were crispy. Everything was exactly the way I liked it. It tasted like ash. Margot sipped her wine, watched me over the rim of her glass. You've been so quiet lately. Is everything really okay? I met her eyes, searched for some sign of guilt, of hesitation, of anything human. But there was nothing. Just warmth. Just concern. Just a mask. Everything's fine, I said. Just work stress. She set down her glass, reached across the table, took my hand. Graham, you know you can talk to me about anything, right? We're a team. A team. The word nearly broke me. I know, I whispered. She smiled, squeezed my hand. Then she stood, started clearing the plates. Why don't you go relax? I'll clean up. You look like you need some rest. I wanted to run. Wanted to grab my keys and drive back to that motel and never come back. But instead, I helped her carry dishes to the kitchen, kissed her cheek, and walked upstairs like everything was normal, like my world wasn't crumbling beneath my feet. The next morning, I left for work before Margot woke up. Drove to the office, locked myself in my private study, and waited. At 9 o'clock, my phone buzzed. Silas, I'm in, downloading everything now. I stared at the message. 3 words. 3 words that meant Silas was inside our home network, pulling years of secrets from the digital shadows. Graham. How long? Silas, few hours. I'll call you. The call came at 2 in the afternoon. Graham. Silas's voice was grim. You need to sit down. I was already sitting. What did you find? A pause. The sound of typing. Then, 487 emails between Margot and Damien over the past 10 months, starting last April. 10 months. She'd been planning this for 10 months. What do they say? Everything. The whole plan. How to forge your signature. Which accounts to use. How to plant the evidence. When to call the police. Silas's voice was tight with anger. Graham, this wasn't some spur-of-the-moment affair. This was premeditated, calculated. My hands clenched into fists. What else? Another pause. There are 83 emails between Damien and Marlo. The air left my lungs. Marlo. My voice cracked. My daughter's involved. Most of the emails are Damien pressuring her, threatening her. But Graham. Silas hesitated. She knew. She knew what they were planning. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. My daughter, my little girl. Send me one, I said hoarsely. Send me an email. You sure? Send it. A moment later, my phone pinged. I opened the attachment with shaking hands. From Marlo Whitfield to Damian Cross. Date February 1st, 2025. Subject timeline. I can't keep lying to him. This is wrong. He's my father. From Damian Cross to Marlo Whitfield. Date February 1st, 2025. Subject timeline. You don't have a choice, sweetheart. Remember what's at stake. Remember what happens if you don't cooperate. Your father will be fine. He'll get a good lawyer. But if you back out now, you lose everything. And so does he. Stick to the plan. I read it twice. 3 times. The words blurred. I can't keep lying to him. She knew, and she didn't tell me. Come. Silas's voice pulled me back. You still there? Yeah. My voice sounded hollow. What does he have on her? Silas was quiet for a moment. I'm not sure yet, but there's a video file on Damian's laptop. It's labeled Marlo_confession_January30.mp4. I haven't opened it, but based on the file size and metadata, it's about 3 minutes long. Filmed in his apartment. My stomach dropped. Send it to me. Graham, are you sure you want to? Send it to me now. A long silence. Then, okay. But Graham, whatever's on this video, it's what he's using to control her. Are you ready for that? I closed my eyes. Thought of Marlo at 10 years old asking me why I always checked things twice. Thought of her smile, her laugh. The way she'd hug me and whisper, "You're the best dad ever." Send it, I whispered. My phone pinged. I opened the file, and my world shattered. The video was 3 minutes and 42 seconds long. It opened on a fixed shot of a small, dim room, white walls, no windows, a single chair centered beneath harsh light. Marlo sat there, hands folded in her lap, face pale and streaked with tears. She wore the gray sweater I'd given her for Christmas 2 years earlier. Her hair hung loose around her shoulders. She looked young, terrified. Off camera, a man's voice spoke, smooth, calm, bored. Whenever you're ready. Marlo wiped her eyes, drew a shaking breath, and looked straight into the lens. My name is Marlo Whitfield, she said softly. I'm an associate attorney at Brennan & Cole in Manhattan. On November 12, 2024, I embezzled $85,000 from client trust accounts. She stopped. Tears spilled down her face. Again, the voice said. Without crying, her mouth trembled. I can't. Again. She closed her eyes, swallowed hard, and began again. My name is Marlo Whitfield. I'm an associate attorney at Brennan & Cole. On November 12, 2024, I embezzled $85,000 from client trust accounts. My father, Graham Whitfield, had nothing to do with it. He didn't know. He never knew. Her voice broke on the last word. Cut, the man said, irritation creeping in. If you keep crying, we'll be here all night. One more time. Say it like you mean it. Please, Marlo whispered. I can't do this anymore. One more time. I couldn't watch after that. I slammed the laptop shut, hands shaking so badly I nearly dropped it. My breathing turned shallow and fast. The motel room felt too small, the walls closing in. I stood paced to the window, back to the bed, back again. My vision blurred. $85,000. My daughter had embezzled $85,000, and Damian had recorded her confessing until she broke. And he'd forced her to say I was innocent, because if I somehow escaped prison, he'd destroy her instead. Release the video. Ruin her career. Her life. I couldn't breathe. My fist hit the wall before I realized I'd moved. Pain exploded through my knuckles. I hit it again. And again. Plaster cracked. Blood smeared the wallpaper. I didn't care. A hard knock snapped me back. Graham Vernon's voice. Open the door. I stared at my bleeding hand, at the dented wall, at the closed laptop on the bed. I felt hollow. Another knock. I know you're in there. I unlocked the door. Vernon pushed inside, holding a white plastic bag from the drugstore. He took one look at my hand. Jesus, he muttered. I watched the video. His jaw tightened. He grabbed my wrist, examined the damage. 2 knuckles split, swelling fast. Sit. I sat. He cleaned the wounds in silence, gauze, antiseptic tape. The same steady hands that had patched me up years ago in college. Talk, he said quietly. He has her on video, I said. Confessing. $85,000. He made her repeat it until it was perfect. And if you go to the police, he releases it. She loses her license. Maybe goes to prison. Her life's over. Vernon wrapped the bandage tight. Then we get her out. How she won't talk to me. Then we make her talk. She'll run. Not if we do it right. He met my eyes. She's scared. But she's still your daughter. My throat tightened. We tell her we know, he continued. We tell her we can protect her. And we convince her to help us stop Damien. And if she won't, then we try anyway. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I recognized it immediately. Marlo had changed her number months ago. Dad, I know you know. We need to talk. Tomorrow. Just you and me. Please. Vernon read it. Could be a trap. I don't care. Graham, she's my daughter. He exhaled. I'm coming. No, she said, just me. I'll wait outside. I nodded. Another message appeared. My apartment, tomorrow, 9 a.m. Please don't tell Mom. Please don't tell Mom. I typed back, I'll be there. 3 dots appeared, vanished, then returned. Thank you, Dad. I set the phone down and stared at my bandaged hand, the blood on the wall, the laptop holding proof of a monster's control. And I made a promise. I was going to save her, even if it destroyed me. I woke at 6 o'clock Thursday morning to my phone buzzing. A text from Marlo. Dad, something came up. I can't meet today. I'll text you later to reschedule. I'm sorry. I stared at the message, my chest tightening. No time, no place, just I'll text you later. Part of me wanted to call her immediately, demand to know what was wrong, if she was safe. But I knew better. If I pushed too hard, she'd pull away completely. I typed back, okay, whenever you're ready. I'll be here. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. No response. I set the phone down, rubbed my face with both hands. 1 more day. Maybe 2. Maybe she'd never be ready. But at least now I had time to prepare. I needed to understand who I was fighting before I faced my daughter. At 11 o'clock that morning, I sat across from Silas in a small coffee shop in Brooklyn, one of those hole-in-the-wall places with mismatched chairs and indie music playing too loud, the kind of place where no one paid attention to anyone else. Silas had his laptop open, 2 cups of black coffee cooling on the table between us. Before you meet Marlo, he said, you need to see this. He turned the screen toward me. 2 faces stared back. 2 men I'd never met, but whose lives mirrored mine in terrifying detail. Albert Mitchell, Boston, 2018. The first profile showed a man in his early 50s, graying hair, kind eyes, architect. The photo captured him standing in front of a modern glass building, arms crossed, smiling with quiet pride. He looked like someone I could have been friends with, someone who loved his work, someone who trusted the wrong people. Albert Mitchell, Silas began. Ran a mid-sized architecture firm in Boston. Married 23 years to Susan Mitchell. 1 daughter, Sloan, 28-years-old lawyer at a Boston firm. He clicked to a news article. Boston architect sentenced to 8 years for embezzlement. In 2018, Albert was convicted of embezzling $200,000 from his own firm. Offshore accounts, forged documents, the whole playbook. His wife filed for divorce 3 months before his arrest. She hired a financial consultant to help with asset division. That consultant was Daniel Crowley. Damien, Sloan testified against her father at trial. Silas continued. Damien had discovered she'd been skimming money from client trust accounts, about $30,000, to cover gambling debts. He threatened to expose her unless she cooperated. So she got on the stand and told the jury her father had been acting erratically, hiding money, lying to the family. My stomach turned. What happened to Albert? A heart attack. Died in prison 2 years into his sentence. Official cause of death anyway. Sloan believes Damien arranged it, but she has no proof. I stared at Albert's photo. A good man. A father. Destroyed. Matthew Prescott. Philadelphia. 2021. Silas clicked to the second profile. Another man in his 50s, dark hair, confident smile. A real estate developer. Matthew Prescott. Owned a commercial development firm in Philadelphia. Married 19 years to Susan Prescott. Same story, different city. Wife has affair with Damien, this time using the name David Preston. Damien helps with the divorce. Plants evidence. Matthew gets convicted of laundering $500,000 through shell companies. The daughter testified against him. Damien had evidence of insider trading at her law firm. Small-scale stuff, but enough to destroy her career. She cooperated. Matthew went to prison, died in 2023. Another heart attack. 2 men. 2 daughters forced to choose between their fathers and their futures. 2 wives who walked away with everything. How many others? I asked. Silas closed the laptop slightly. At least 4 more cases I can trace. Chicago, Seattle, Miami, Denver. But records are sealed, buried under NDAs and legal fees. Damien's been perfecting this for over a decade. Why architects and developers? Because you have assets, houses, businesses, retirement funds, but you're not billionaires. You don't have security teams or PR firms. You're successful enough to be worth the effort, but quiet enough to destroy, without anyone caring. Perfect targets. What happened to the daughters after? I asked quietly. Silas reopened the laptop, pulled up a document. Sloan Mitchell lost her law license for 2 years. She's working as a paralegal now, trying to rebuild. The other daughter changed her name, moved across the country. Both of them have to live with what they did. Both of them were forced to betray the people who loved them most. I thought of Marlo. The way she'd looked in that video, broken, terrified, reading words someone else had written. I need to talk to Sloan, I said. If she survived this, maybe she can help Marlo. I already reached out, Silas said. She wants to help. But Graham, she's been waiting for someone to fight back. She wants Damien stopped more than anyone. Then let's... My phone rang. I glanced at the screen. Unknown number. My pulse quickened. Silas nodded. Answer it. I swiped to accept, raised the phone to my ear. Hello. A woman's voice, young, careful, weighted with years of pain. Is this Graham Whitfield? Yes. Who's this? A pause. I could hear her breathing, steadying herself. My name is Sloan Mitchell. My father was Albert Mitchell. Another pause. I think we need to talk. The coffee sat on a quiet corner near Prospect Heights. All exposed brick and mismatched vintage furniture. Afternoon sunlight streamed through tall windows, stretching long shadows across the wooden floor. I arrived 10 minutes early, ordered a coffee I wouldn't drink, and chose a back table where I could see the door. At exactly 3 o'clock, she walked in. Sloan Mitchell was younger than I expected. 28, Silas had said. Still, she carried the weight of someone much older. She wore a plain black suit, her dark hair pulled into a low ponytail. Her eyes scanned the room once settled on me, and something shifted in her expression, recognition maybe, or something heavier. She crossed the coffee and extended her hand. Mr. Whitfield, Sloan. I stood and shook it. Her grip was firm, steady. Thank you for meeting me. I've been waiting for this call for 5 years, she said as she sat. I'm sorry it came to this. Tell me about your father. She didn't hesitate. Her voice stayed calm, controlled, as if she'd told this story 1,000 times. My father was a good man, a brilliant architect. He designed Harborview Tower in Boston, you might know it. He was proud of that building. Her jaw tightened. He met my mother in college. They were married 23 years. I was their only child. He used to say I was his greatest achievement. Her voice cracked. What happened? I asked. Damien happened. She took a slow breath. My mother met him at a charity gala in 2017. He introduced himself as Daniel Crowley, a financial consultant. Charming, polished. He offered to help manage family assets during what he called a transitional period. My parents were fighting money, stress, normal things. Damien saw an opening. I already knew the pattern. 6 months later, my mother filed for divorce. 3 months after that, my father was arrested for embezzling $200,000 from his own firm. Offshore accounts, forged signatures, evidence everywhere. Her hands clenched. But it was planted. Damien did it, and my mother helped him. You testified against your father, I said softly. She closed her eyes. Damien found out I'd stolen money from client trust accounts at my firm. $30,000. Gambling debts. I was young and stupid. He threatened to expose me unless I cooperated. So I stood in court and told 12 strangers that my father was unstable, that I'd seen him hide money. A tear slid down her cheek. She wiped it away. I thought if I helped it would end. Maybe probation. But Damien wanted him broken. 8 years. My father got 8 years. When did he die? 2 years in. Officially a heart attack. But he was healthy, ran marathons, no history. She met my eyes. I believe Damien arranged it. I can't prove it. But I know. The coffee felt too bright. I imagined Albert Mitchell alone in a cell, wondering why his daughter betrayed him. Did Damien contact you afterward? I asked. Once, she said. 2 weeks after the funeral, offered condolences, then asked if I wanted to consult on future cases, said he needed someone with my legal background. What did you do? I hung up. Then I started digging. Her voice hardened. 3 years. I found Matthew Prescott in Philadelphia. Traces of cases in Chicago and Seattle. Everything buried under sealed records and NDAs. Damien pays well to erase himself. You couldn't go to the police. With what she asked. Circumstantial patterns, no smoking gun. He's careful, except he wasn't, I thought. He left Marlowe. He left evidence. He underestimated a father. Mr. Whitfield Sloan said, leaning forward. If you want to stop him, you can't start with the police. He'll flip the narrative. He'll make you look guilty. He'll destroy your daughter. You need to expose him publicly. How? Before he can run. Before he can lie. She slid a folder across the table. This is everything I have. Timelines, photos, court records, victim names. It won't convict him, but it will force questions. I opened it. Faces stared back. Ordinary families. Destroyed. There's more, she said. My mother is willing to testify. Susan Mitchell knows what Damien did. She helped him. She wants to make it right. And Susan Prescott, she's in. 3 families together we can bury him. My phone buzzed. A message from Marlowe. Dad, I'm ready to talk. Tomorrow 9 a.m. Mom will be at work. Come alone. I showed Sloan. Her expression tightened. Be careful. Damien could be using her. He might be there. I know, I said, but she's my daughter. Then don't truly go alone, she said. Have someone nearby. Record everything. I nodded. What happens after? You bring her to us, Sloan said. And then we end this. Together. She stood and held out her hand. Just say when. I shook it. Thank you. Thank me when he's in prison. She walked out, back straight, shoulders squared. I sat alone with cold coffee and Marlowe's message glowing on my phone. Tomorrow, 9 a.m., come alone. Standing on my own front porch felt like trespassing. I'd lived in this house for 26 years, painted these walls, fixed that loose step on the third stair, planted the rose bushes Margot loved along the walkway. But now with my key hovering over the lock, it felt like enemy territory. I glanced down the street. Vernon sat in his truck 2 blocks away, engine running, phone in hand. If anything went wrong, he'd be here in seconds. Silas was monitoring remotely, watching for any digital activity from Damien. I wasn't as alone as Marlowe thought. I turned the key and stepped inside. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Margot's car was gone. She'd left for work an hour ago, right on schedule. The morning sunlight slanted through the living room windows, illuminating dust motes floating in the air. Everything looked normal. Safe. Like the home I remembered. But I knew better now. Dad, Marlowe appeared at the top of the stairs. She wore sweatpants and an oversized sweater, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. No makeup. Her eyes were red-rimmed, puffy from crying. She looked so young, so scared. Marlowe, my voice came out rough. She descended the stairs, slowly gripping the banister like she might fall. When she reached the bottom, she stopped 3 feet away, her arms wrapped around herself. I'm sorry, she whispered. Dad, I'm so sorry. We sat in the living room, her on the couch, me in the armchair across from her. The same seats we'd occupied 1,000 times over the years. Family movie nights, homework help, late-night talks when she was in high school and couldn't sleep. But this wasn't one of those times. Tell me everything, I said gently. She took a shaky breath. Last November, I made a mistake. A huge mistake. I took $85,000 from client trust accounts at my firm. My chest tightened, but I kept my expression neutral. Why? I had debts, personal debts. I thought I could pay it back before anyone noticed. But then the firm started an internal audit, and I panicked. She wiped her eyes with the sleeve of her sweater. And that's when Damien found out. How did he know? He works with lawyers, financial consultants. He has connections all over the city. Someone at my firm tipped him off, I don't know who. He contacted me, said he could help me cover it up, make the audit go away. I was desperate, so I believed him. So what did he ask for in return? Marlowe's face crumpled. At first, nothing. He just said he was helping out of goodness. But then a few weeks later, he invited me to his apartment. Said we needed to discuss next steps. That's when he showed me the video. I'd seen the video, watched her cry and stumble over words while Damien directed her like a puppet. But hearing her describe it made my blood boil all over again. He filmed you confessing 3 times. He made me do it 3 times until I said exactly what he wanted. Her voice broke. He said if I didn't cooperate, he'd send it to the state bar, to the firm, to everyone. I'd lose my license. I'd go to prison. So I did what he told me. What did he want? Information about you, your work schedule, your bank accounts, where you kept important documents. He said it was just for financial planning, in case Mom filed for divorce. She looked at me, her eyes pleading. I didn't know he was going to frame you. I swear I didn't know until it was too late. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees. Marlowe, I need you to trust me. Can you get me evidence? Anything that proves Damien orchestrated this. She hesitated. He keeps everything on a private server, encrypted. I don't have access. But you know where it is. She nodded slowly. His apartment. He has a home office. The server's in there. I saw it once when I was dropping off paperwork. He doesn't know I noticed. Hope flickered. Could you get in? See, maybe. He gave me a key once, told me to water his plants while he was out of town. I never gave it back. She pulled a small key from her pocket, held it up. But Dad, if he finds out, he won't. We'll be careful. She stared at the key, her hand trembling. There's something else. My stomach dropped. What? Marlo looked up at me, tears streaming down her face. Mom knows. About the $85,000. About Damien blackmailing me. She's known from the beginning. The room tilted. What? Damien told me last month. He said Mom was the one who suggested using me to get to you. She knew about my debts. She told him exactly how to manipulate me. Marlo's voice rose, desperate. She's been helping him this whole time, Dad. She's been planning this for months. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. The walls of my own living room closed in around me. Margot knew, so Marlo left that morning around 11. Said she needed to go get something. Didn't tell me what. Just left. And I sat there in that kitchen, same kitchen, where we'd had birthday dinners, Christmas mornings, normal family stuff, wondering if she'd actually come back. 2 hours. 2 hours I waited. Then the doorbell rang. She stood there holding this tiny black USB drive, like something you'd forget in your pocket. But it wasn't just a flash drive. It was everything. I got it, she said. That's all, just I got it. We went inside, sat at the table, and she handed it to me like she was handing over a grenade. 6 months of emails, she said. Her voice was shaking. Between Mom and Damien, the whole plan, everything they did, everything they were going to do. I plugged it into my laptop. The files loaded. Folders, subfolders, hundreds of documents. I clicked the first email. August 15th. Last year, and there it was. From Margot Whitfield to Damien Cross. Subject ready. I'm tired of him. Let's do this. That was it. 7 words. I'm tired of him. 26 years of marriage. 26 years. And she summed it up in 7 words. I stared at that screen. I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. Marlo touched my arm. Dad! I clicked the next email. Damien's response. Give me 6 months. I'll make sure he loses everything. 6 months. He wrote that in August. And here we were in February. Right on schedule. I scrolled through more emails. September, October, November. Each one worse than the last. They talked about my bank accounts like I wasn't even a person. Just numbers. Assets. Things to liquidate. Margot had written most of it. The details. The timeline. Where to plant the evidence. When to call the cops. Damien just refined it. Made it cleaner, professional. They'd been planning this for months. While I was God, while I was telling her I loved her. While we were planning that trip to Cape Cod. While I thought we were fine. Dad, Marlo's voice cut through. There's audio. You need to hear it. I didn't want to, but I clicked the file anyway. Static. Then Damien's voice. That same smooth, calm voice. Your father will be arrested within the month. Pause. The evidence is planted. The accounts are flagged. Once the police find what we've left, he's finished. Marlo's voice in the background crying. What if he figures it out? Damien laughed. Actually laughed. He won't. And even if he does, too late. They'll see the offshore accounts, the forged documents, the cash. They'll see a guilty man trying to cover his tracks. Another pause. Your mother will testify he's been erratic. You'll testify he's been distant. And Graham Whitfield will spend the next 10 years in prison. What happens to me? Marlo asked. You keep your license. Keep your job. As long as you do exactly what I say. Because if you don't, sweetheart, that video goes to the state bar. And you'll be right there next to Daddy. I stopped the recording. The kitchen was dead silent. I'd known intellectually, I'd known that Damien was manipulating her. But hearing it, hearing him laugh while threatening my daughter, something in me shifted, got colder, harder. There's more, Marlo whispered. Another file. He talks about the others. I opened it, clicked play. Damien's voice again. Casual, like he was discussing the weather. Mitchell was easy. Architects are all the same, trusting sentimental, too busy with their work to notice their wives cheating. Prescott was harder. Real estate guys are paranoid. But once I had his daughter on camera, he folded like everyone else. Pause. How many times have you done this? Marlowe asked. Enough to know the formula. Find a successful guy. Seduce his wife. Find his weakness, usually the kids. Apply pressure. Plant evidence. Watch him fall. Then move to the next city and start over. What if someone catches you? Damien laughed again. That same cold laugh. They won't. Mitchell's daughter tried for years. Found nothing. And even if they do, I'm gone. I've got accounts in the Caymans. Passports under 3 names. I'm untouchable. I shut the laptop. Looked at Marlowe. He's done this before, I said. Not a question. Just stating it. Multiple times. And he'll keep doing it. I know. Marlowe. I leaned forward. Will you testify in court? On record, against him, against your mother. She closed her eyes. Tears ran down her face. If I testify, she said slowly, the bar finds out about the $85,000. I lose my license. I probably go to prison. If you don't, I said, I go to prison. And Damien does this to another family, another daughter. Silence. Long silence. Then she opened her eyes. Okay. Barely a whisper. I'll do it. I reached across the table, took her hand. Thank you. Don't thank me, Dad. Her voice broke. This is my fault. If I hadn't stolen that money, he would have found another way. I squeezed her hand. This is what he does, but we're stopping him. Together. My phone rang. Silas, I answered. Yeah, Graham. His voice was tight, urgent. Damien just booked a flight. Cayman Islands. Leaves February 11th. My stomach dropped. 3 days, I said. 3 days. If he gets on that plane, we'll never see him again. He's got money there, properties, connections. He disappears, and we lose everything. I looked at Marlowe. She was watching me, waiting. Then we don't give him 3 days, I said. What? How fast can you and Vernon get here? 20 minutes. Do it. And call Sloane Mitchell. Tell her it's happening. Tonight. Pause. Graham, what are you planning? I looked at the USB drive, at the emails, at the recordings that proved everything. We're exposing him, I said, publicly, before he can run. How? I'll figure it out. Just get here. I hung up. Marlowe stared at me. What are we doing? I don't know yet. I stood up, started pacing. But we have 3 days before he disappears forever. 3 days to make sure everyone knows what he is, what he's done. The police will take weeks, months. He'll be gone by then. I turned to her. We need to do this differently. Make it so public, so undeniable that he can't run, can't hide, can't spin it. And how I thought about the live stream culture, the viral videos, the way information spreads now fast, unstoppable, impossible to contain once it's out there. We tell everyone, I said. Everyone, at once, before he knows what's happening. Marlowe's eyes widened. You mean like online? Yeah, live stream, social media, whatever it takes. We show the evidence. We show the emails. We let the world see exactly who Damien Cross is. She hesitated. That's risky. Everything's risky now. I sat back down across from her. But if we wait, he wins. If we go through official channels, he wins. This is the only way. She was quiet for a moment. Then she nodded. Okay, let's do it. 20 minutes later, Vernon and Silas showed up. Then Sloane Mitchell arrived with her mother Susan, the woman who'd helped Damien destroy her own husband. We sat around my kitchen table, 6 people, a laptop, and a USB drive that could bring down a predator. "So," Vernon said, "what's the plan?" I looked around the table, at Marlo, at Sloane, at Vernon and Silas and Susan. "We're going live," I said. "Tomorrow night. We show everything. The emails, the recordings, the pattern, all of it. And we make damn sure Damien Cross never hurts another family again." Sloane smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who'd been waiting 5 years for this moment. "Let's bury him," she said. So there we were, 6 people around my kitchen table like we were planning a surprise party instead of taking down a predator. Vernon sat to my right, arms crossed, his expression sharp and calculating. Silas had his laptop open, fingers already moving. Across from me sat Sloane and her mother Susan, 2 women who had lost everything to the same man. And beside me was Marlo, my daughter. Hands folded in her lap, trying not to shake. Vernon spoke first. "We need to call the police. Tonight." I shook my head. "The police take time. Interviews, warrants. Damien's flight leaves in 3 days. He'll be gone before they even get started." "So what's the alternative?" Vernon asked. Sloane leaned forward. "We go public. Before he can run. Before he can rewrite the story." Vernon frowned. "Public how?" "We live stream it," she said. "All of it. The evidence, the emails, the pattern. Make it so big he can't bury it." Silas looked up. "I can do that. Multi-platform. YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram Live. Once it's out there, it's permanent. He can't delete it." "How many people would see it?" I asked. "Depends," Silas said. "But if we hit prime time, thousands. Maybe more." Vernon still looked uneasy. "And then what?" "We just hope they believe us." "We don't hope," Sloane said, opening her folder. "We show them. My father's case. Matthew Prescott's. Graham's. 3 families. Same pattern. Same man." Susan spoke for the first time, her voice quiet but steady. "I'll testify. On camera. I'll tell them what I did. What he made me do." Sloane reached for her mother's hand. I turned to Silas. "When?" "Damien flies February 11th, Sunday. We go before that." He checked his screen. "Saturday night. February 10th. 8 p.m. "That's tomorrow," Marlo said softly. "Yes," Silas replied. "Which gives us 24 hours. Vernon exhaled. "This is insane. We're talking about accusing a criminal live on the internet." "You have a better idea?" I asked. Silence. Then Vernon nodded. "No, I don't." Marlo finally spoke. "What do I need to do?" Sloane met her eyes. "You tell the truth. Everything. How he found you. How he blackmailed you. How he used you to get to your father. And you show the video," I added. "The one he recorded." Marlo went pale. "Dad, that video is humiliating. Everyone will see me confessing." "I know," I said, taking her hand. "But it's proof. Proof he forced you." "The bar will see it too," she said. "I could lose my license." "Yes," I said quietly. "Probably for a while. But you'll be alive. And free. And Damien will be exposed." She stared at the table for a long moment. Then she looked up. "Okay. I'll do it." I searched her face. "Once this goes live, there's no taking it back. Everyone will know." She nodded, jaw set. "He's destroyed too many families. If I can stop him from destroying another one, it's worth it." Something inside me broke open. I stood and pulled her into a hug, the first real one in months. "I'm sorry, Dad," she whispered. "I know," I said. "Me too." We spent the next hour planning. Silas outlined the technical setup. Cameras, audio, streaming software. Sloan mapped the narrative start with Albert Mitchell, then Matthew Prescott, then me. Build the pattern. End with a call to action. Vernon volunteered for security. If Damien finds out early, he might try to interfere. Susan agreed to open the stream with her confession. Marlo would go last. By 6 o'clock, everyone began to leave. Sloan and Susan went to prepare. Silas left to gather equipment. Vernon said he'd return early. Marlo went upstairs to lie down, said she needed time. I stayed in the kitchen staring at my laptop, at the USB drive, at the evidence that could end everything. My phone chimed. New email. Unknown sender. Subject: think carefully. I opened it. Graham, I know what you're planning. Walk away. If you don't, Marlo pays the price. I've been patient. Don't make me change that. D. My blood ran cold. He knew. I forwarded the email to the group chat. Responses came instantly. Vernon, he's watching us. Silas, how networks clean. Sloan, doesn't matter. We move faster. Marlo, Dad. Maybe we should stop. I called her immediately. He's bluffing, I said. He wants us scared. But what if he's not? Then we make sure he can't act. We go live tomorrow night. Once it's public, he's finished. Silence. Then she said, okay, tomorrow night. I hung up and looked at the email again. Marlo pays the price. No, not this time. This time Damien Cross was going to pay. 3 days, that's all we had. 3 days to set up cameras. Write statements. Rehearse. Prepare to blow up my entire life on the internet. Let me walk you through it. Saturday, February 9th. Silas showed up at my house at 7 in the morning with a duffel bag full of equipment. Cameras, microphones, wireless transmitters, stuff I didn't even know existed. We need 4 angles, he said, pulling out a camera no bigger than a quarter. Living room, kitchen, hallway, and basement. That covers everywhere Margot might go when she realizes what's happening. Vernon helped him run cables through the walls, tested sight lines, made sure nothing looked suspicious. By noon, we had 4 hidden cameras installed. You couldn't see them unless you knew where to look. And trust me, I knew where to look, and I still couldn't spot them. Silas set up his laptop on my kitchen table, pulled up a split screen showing all 4 camera feeds. Yestron, he said. Graham walked through the living room. I did. On his screen, I watched myself move across the frame, crystal clear. High definition. Audio check, Silas called out. Testing 1, 2, 3, I said. My voice came through the speakers. Perfect quality. Vernon whistled. That's good gear. My Navy taught me well. Silas clicked a few more keys. Okay. Streaming software is configured. YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. All set to go live simultaneously at 8 p.m. tomorrow. How many people do you think will watch? I asked. Silas shrugged. Hard to say, but I've seeded some hashtags, sent out some anonymous tips to true crime forums. If we're lucky, few thousand people watching me confront my wife. Great. No pressure. Sunday, February 10th, morning. I couldn't sleep. Got up at 6, made coffee. Stared at my phone. At 9, I called Margot. She was at her sister's place for the weekend. Perfect. Hey, I said, trying to sound casual. Want to do dinner tonight? I feel like we haven't had a real date in months. Oh. She sounded surprised. Pleased. That would be lovely. What time? 8. I'll make reservations somewhere nice. Perfect. I'll see you at home around 7:30 to get ready. Sounds good. Love you. Love you too. I hung up. Felt sick. Sunday afternoon, 2 p.m. Sloan called from her apartment in Boston. I just got off the phone with my mother and Susan Prescott. They're both in. They'll join the live stream via Zoom at 8:15. Gina, are they ready? As ready as they'll ever be. My mom's been waiting 5 years to tell the truth. She's not backing out now. And Susan Prescott, same. She lost her husband to Damien. She wants justice. Okay, good, that's good. Pause. Shank Graham. Sloane said quietly. Are you sure about this? No, but we're doing it anyway. Sunday evening, 6 p.m. The team assembled at my house. Marlo, Vernon, Silas. Sloane drove down from Boston. We sat in the living room, the same room where we'd go live in 2 hours, and ran through the plan. Sloane would speak first, introduce herself, explain what happened to her father. Then Susan Mitchell would appear on Zoom, her confession. Then Susan Prescott, same. Then Marlo. She'd show Damien's video, tell her story. Then me, I'd show the emails, the recordings, the pattern. And then we'd wait. Wait for the world to see. Wait for the police to show up. Wait for Damien to realize he'd lost. Marlo's hands shook as she held her notes. What if I freeze? What if I can't do it? Oh, you will, Sloane said firmly. Because you're stronger than you think. And because your father's sitting right next to you. I reached over, squeezed Marlo's hand. We're in this together. All the way. She nodded, wiped her eyes. Okay, let's do it. Sunday evening, 7:30 p.m. Margot's car pulled into the driveway. I watched from the window. Silas and Sloane were hidden in the guest bedroom. Vernon was in the basement monitoring the camera feeds. Marlo was upstairs waiting for her cue. Margot walked up the steps, unlocked the door, stepped inside. She looked happy, relaxed, like she was looking forward to a nice dinner with her husband. I felt like I was going to throw up. Hey, I said, forced a smile. Ready for dinner? Let me just change quick. She kissed my cheek, headed upstairs. I stood there, listening to her footsteps overhead, listening to her hum some song I didn't recognize. My phone buzzed. Text from Silas in the guest room. Cameras live. 4,200 viewers waiting. 4,000 people. Waiting to watch my life implode. 7:50 p.m. Margot came downstairs wearing a blue dress. Her favorite. The one I'd bought her for our anniversary 3 years ago. She smiled. How do I look? Beautiful, I said. And I meant it. Even now. Even knowing everything. She was still beautiful. So where are we going? She asked. I took a breath. Margot, before we go, there's something I need to talk to you about. Her smile faltered. Just slightly. What is it? Sit down. This might take a while. She frowned. Confused. But she sat on the couch. Right in front of camera one, exactly where we needed her. Behind her, through the window, I could see Vernon's truck parked down the street. Back up. Just in case. I sat in the armchair across from her. The same spot I'd sat 1,000 times. Family game nights, movie marathons, normal life. But this wasn't normal life anymore. My phone was in my pocket. Silas would be watching the feed, waiting for my signal. I looked at Margot, at the woman I'd loved for 26 years, the woman who'd been planning my destruction for the last 7 months. Margot, I said slowly, we need to talk about Damien. Her face went white, and somewhere in the guest bedroom, Silas clicked a button. We were live. 8 p.m. exactly. Somewhere upstairs, Silas clicked a button. And just like that, we were broadcasting to 5,000 strangers. 5,000 people watching me sit across from my wife in our living room. Watching the TV behind me flicker to life. Watching the title slide appear in big white letters. The truth about Damien Cross. Margot stared at the screen, then at me. Graham, what is this? I kept my voice calm, even, like we were discussing dinner plans. Margot, I know everything. I know about you and Damien. I know about the plan to frame me. Her face, God, her face went from confused to pale to panicked in about 3 seconds. She stood up fast, too fast. This is ridiculous. Sit down. Something in my voice made her freeze. Sit down. She sat. But her eyes were darting around the room now, looking for something. An escape route, maybe. That's when she saw it. The tiny camera lens mounted on the bookshelf, then another one on top of the TV. Are you recording this? We're not recording. I gestured to the laptop Silas had set up on the side table. The screen showed a live comment feed. Messages pouring in. What's happening? Who is Damian Cross? Is this real? We're live. 5,000 people are watching right now. Her eyes went huge. You're insane. She started toward the camera. Turn it off right now. Vernon stepped out from the kitchen, blocked her path, arms crossed, just standing there. She looked at him, at me, at the cameras, at the laptop screen where the viewer count had just jumped to 5,800. You can't do this, she said, voice shaking now. This is illegal. It's the truth. I picked up the remote, clicked to the next slide. A photo filled the TV screen, crystal clear. Damien and Margot in our basement, him holding a camera, her standing next to him pointing at something off-screen, both of them smiling. The timestamp, February 3rd, 2025, 8:30 a.m. The day Griffin saw them planting evidence. Explain this, Margot. She stared at the screen. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. That's not... You don't understand. She then helped me understand. I leaned forward. Help these 6,000 people understand why you were in our basement with Damian Cross planting evidence to frame me for embezzlement. The viewer count was climbing. 6,200 now. Comments flying past faster than I could read them. OMG, is this real? Someone call the police. This is insane. Who is Damian Cross? Is that his wife? Margot's voice cracked. Graham, please, turn it off. We can talk about this privately. So we're done talking privately. We're done with secrets. I clicked the remote again. Next slide, an email. From Margot to Damien. August 15th. I'm tired of him. Let's do this. Read it, I said, out loud. Tell everyone what you wrote. She shook her head. Tears starting now. I can't. You can. Because you wrote it. You planned this. I clicked again. Another email. September. Then October. Then November. Each one more damning than the last. Instructions on forging my signature. Bank account numbers. Timeline for planting evidence. When to call the police. All of it. Right there on the screen. For 6,800 people to see. Margot was crying now. Full on sobbing. Please, please stop. I'll explain everything. Just turn off the cameras. No. That one word hung in the air. She looked at me. Really looked at me. And maybe for the first time in months, maybe years, she saw me. Not the husband she'd gotten tired of. Not the obstacle in her plan. Just me. How long have you known? She whispered. Long enough. Does Marlo knows everything. She's the one who gave me the evidence. Margot's face crumpled. Oh, God. Yeah. I clicked the remote one more time. Next slide, a list. Names, dates, cities. Albert Mitchell, Boston. 2018. Matthew Prescott, Philadelphia. 2021. Graham Whitfield, Brooklyn. 2025. You weren't the first, I said quietly. And I wasn't going to be the last. The doorbell rang. Everything stopped. Margot's head snapped toward the door. Vernon tensed. Even I froze for a second. Who the hell? It rang again. Loud. Insistent. The comment section exploded. Joe's at the door. OMG, is it him? This is better than any movie. Answer it. I stood up. Walked to the door. Every camera in the house tracking my movement. Nearly 7,000 people watching me reach for the doorknob. My hand closed around the cold metal. I pulled it open. Before I continue, I need to know you're still here. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted? Maybe not like this. But betrayal comes in many forms. If you've been there, drop a comment below. Tell me your story. You're not alone. And one more thing, the story ahead contains some fictional elements. It may not be entirely real. If that's not for you, feel free to close the video now. No hard feelings. But if you're ready to see what happened next, let's keep going. He stepped into the living room like he owned it. Damien didn't know that 8,000 people were watching him. The live stream counter ticked upward in the corner of the screen. 8,200, 8,500, 8,700. Comments flooded in faster than anyone could read them. Who is this guy? Is this real? Someone call the police. Margot stood frozen near the couch. Her face had gone pale. Damien glanced at the camera mounted on the bookshelf, then at the laptop on the coffee table. His smile faltered for just a second. "Krakim," he said slowly. "You're making a mistake. Turn off the cameras, now." I didn't move. No. His jaw tightened. He turned to Margot. "Kate," he said. "Let's go." Kate. Not Margot. Kate. I reached for the remote control on the arm of the chair. "Before you leave," I said, "there's something everyone needs to see." I pressed play. The screen on the TV filled with footage from the basement. February 3rd, 8:30 in the morning. The angle was perfect. Silas had hidden the camera inside an old box of Christmas lights on a shelf near the furnace. You could see everything. Damien and Margot stood near the black duffel bag, the one stuffed with cash, the one with my forged signature on fake ledgers sitting right next to it. Damien's voice came through the speakers, clear as day. "Make sure his fingerprints are on the documents." Margot's hands, steady, deliberate, pressed my fingers against the edge of a manila folder. Then the ledger, then the offshore bank statements. "Done," she said. On the live stream, the viewer count jumped. 9,000, then 10. I glanced at Damien. His smile was gone. I pressed the remote again. Another file, audio this time, no video, just Damien's voice. Recorded 3 days ago in his apartment. Marlo had left her phone on the kitchen counter while he talked in the next room. "I've done this twice before. Albert Mitchell, Matthew Prescott. Both of them are dead now. Graham Whitfield will be next." A pause. The wife always helps. They think they're getting freedom. What they get is a cut of the estate and a new life with me, until I'm done with them. Marlo's the key. She's scared. She'll do exactly what I say. And when it's over, Graham goes to prison. Margot gets everything. And I disappear. The living room was silent. Damien's face had gone white. On the screen, the comment section exploded. "Monitors, call the cops right now. Justice for Albert Mitchell. Is this guy serious? Someone do something." The viewer count hit 10,500. Vernon stood near the door, arms crossed. He didn't say a word. He didn't need to. Then the TV screen split. A woman appeared in a small window on the right side. Late 20s. Short, dark hair. Glasses. She looked directly into the camera. "My name is Sloane Mitchell." Her voice was steady, calm. But you could hear the pain underneath it. "Damien Cross, also known as Daniel Crowley, destroyed my family. He seduced my mother. He framed my father for embezzlement. He forced me to testify against him in court." She paused. "So my father died in prison 2 years later. He was 53 years old. He had a heart attack in his cell. Alone." Another pause. "Chakchukike, Graham Whitfield is the third victim. There are others. Damien has done this for over a decade. He targets architects, developers, professionals with assets, but no public profile. He makes them disappear, legally." Sloane leaned closer to the camera. "If you're watching this, please help us stop him." The screen split again. 2 more women appeared, older, both in their 50s. Susan Mitchell, Albert's widow. Susan Prescott, Matthew's widow. Both were crying. Susan Mitchell spoke first. "Oh, I believed him," she whispered. "I thought he loved me. I thought my husband was the problem. I was wrong. And now Albert is gone. And I have to live with that every single day. Susan Prescott nodded. He told me the same things. That Matthew was controlling. That I deserved better. That he would take care of everything. She wiped her eyes. Matthew died in prison. He never got to meet his grandson. Because of me. Because I trusted Damien Cross. The viewer count hit 12,000. The comment section was moving too fast to read. Damien pulled out his phone. "I'm calling my lawyer," he said. His hand was shaking. I stood up. "Go ahead," I said. But 12,000 people just watched you confess. On camera, with witnesses. In real time. I took a step toward him. "You're done, Damien." That's when we heard it. Sirens, faint at first, then louder. Red and blue lights flashed through the front window, reflected off the walls. Off Margot's face, off the camera lens. Damien turned toward the door. Vernon didn't move. The sirens got closer and closer, and then they stopped, right outside. The front door opened. Detective Kelsey Grant stepped inside first. Mid-40s, dark blazer, badge clipped to her belt. She moved with the kind of calm that comes from 20 years on the job. Behind her, Officer Dean Foster, younger brother, kept one hand near his radio. Kelsey's eyes swept the room. She took in the cameras, the laptop, the TV screen still showing the live stream split with Sloane Mitchell and the two Susans. The viewer count in the corner, 16,200. Then she looked at Damien. "Yum, Mr. Cross," she said. Her voice was level, professional. "You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, tampering with evidence, and extortion." Damien didn't move. His face was stone. "I want my lawyer," he said. Kelsey nodded. "You'll get one. Hands behind your back." For a moment, Damien just stood there, like he was calculating whether he could talk his way out of this. He couldn't. Officer Foster stepped forward with the handcuffs. The sound of the cuffs clicking shut echoed through the room. Margot stood up from the couch. Her voice shook. "Detective, I can explain." Kelsey turned to her. "Mrs. Whitfield," she said calmly. "You're also under arrest. Accessory to fraud, conspiracy, evidence tampering." Margot's face crumpled. No, you don't understand." "I didn't, Graham, please." She turned to me, eyes wide, desperate. I looked away. There was movement from the kitchen. Marlo stepped into the doorway. Her hands were trembling. She'd been listening from the other room the whole time. "Detective Grant," she said quietly. Kelsey turned. "I need to give a statement." Kelsey studied her for a moment. "You're Marlo Whitfield?" Marlo nodded. "I was coerced into participating," she said. Her voice was steadier now. "I have recordings, documents. Everything that proves Damien Cross blackmailed me." She took a breath. "I'm ready to testify." Kelsey's expression softened just slightly. "We'll need a full statement from you, tonight if possible." Marlo nodded again. "I'm ready." Officer Foster started reading Damien his Miranda rights. "You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." Damien wasn't listening. He was staring at the laptop, at the live stream, at the comment section still flooding with messages. "Mali. Lock him up. Justice for Albert Mitchell. Thank you, Graham Whitfield." "This is insane." The viewer count hit 17,000. Kelsey gestured to Officer Foster. He guided Damien toward the door. Margot was next. Another officer, a woman I didn't recognize, stepped forward with a second pair of handcuffs. "Mrs. Whitfield, hands behind your back." Margot's knees buckled. She caught herself on the arm of the couch. "Gramka," she whispered. "Please don't let them do this." I didn't answer. Vernon stood near the wall, arms still crossed. He met my eyes, gave a single nod. "You did the right thing." They led Margot toward the door. She was crying now. Quiet, broken sobs. I felt nothing. Or maybe I felt everything. I couldn't tell anymore. Damien stopped in the doorway. Officer Foster had a hand on his shoulder, but Damien turned his head, looked back at me. His face was calm again, too calm. "You think this is over," he said. His voice was quiet, cold. "You have no idea what I'm capable of." I stepped forward, stood in the middle of the living room. Camera still running. Live stream still broadcasting. "Neither do you," I said. Damien's jaw tightened. For a second, I thought he might say something else, but he didn't. Officer Foster guided him out the door, down the front steps, into the back of a patrol car. Margot followed a moment later, head down, shoulders shaking. The door slammed shut. The red and blue lights painted the street in sharp, flickering waves, and then the cars pulled away. Kelsey stayed behind. She looked at the laptop. "I'm Mr. Whitfield," she said. "I'm going to need copies of everything. The videos, the audio files, the documents, all of it." "You'll have it," I said. "Silas has been documenting everything." She nodded. "Good. We'll also need statements from you, your daughter, and anyone else involved. We'll cooperate fully." Kelsey glanced at the live stream one more time. The viewer count had climbed to 18,000. She exhaled slowly. "This is going to be a long night," she said. I nodded. "Yeah, it is." After Kelsey left, Vernon walked over, clapped a hand on my shoulder. "You did it," he said. I looked at the screen, at the split windows showing Sloan, Susan Mitchell, Susan Prescott. All three were still there, watching. Sloan gave a small wave. I waved back. Then Silas off-camera reached over and clicked the mouse. The screen went black. Live stream ended. Final viewer count 18,427. The house was quiet. Marlo stood in the kitchen doorway. She looked at me, eyes red, face pale. "Dad," she said softly. "I'm sorry." I walked over, pulled her into a hug. She broke down, and for the first time in weeks, I let myself cry too. 3 weeks later, we were back at the precinct. Graham and Marlo sat across from Detective Kelsey Grant in a small conference room. The walls were beige. The table was scratched. There was a clock on the wall that ticked too loudly. Kelsey dropped a thick file folder onto the table. "Mr. Whitfield," she said. "You're a very lucky man. You're still alive." I looked at the folder. It had to be 2 inches thick. "We've been digging into Damien Cross," Kelsey continued. "And what we found, it's worse than we thought." Marlo shifted in her chair. Her hands were folded tight in her lap. "How much worse?" I asked. Kelsey opened the file. "Damien didn't do this twice. He did it 4 times. She pulled out a photo. A middle-aged man, smiling, standing in front of a house. James Hartman, Chicago. 2016. He was an architect, married, 1 daughter, also a lawyer. Damien used the same playbook. Seduced the wife, planted evidence, framed Hartman for embezzlement. She slid the photo across the table. Hartman was convicted, sentenced to 8 years. He died of a stroke in prison after 18 months. Another photo. David Wells, Seattle, 2017, real estate developer. Same pattern. Wife, daughter, fake evidence. David died of a heart attack in his cell before we even knew Damien existed. Kelsey looked at me. Albert Mitchell was victim number 3. Matthew Prescott was number 4. You, Mr. Whitfield, were supposed to be number 5. The room was quiet for a moment. Marlo's voice came out small. "How many families did he destroy?" Kelsey closed the file. "At least 4 that we know of. Could be more. We're still looking." I leaned back in my chair. "What about Margot?" Kelsey's expression didn't change. She's cooperating, sort of. Sort of. She's claiming Damien manipulated her. That he promised her a fresh start after you were arrested. That she didn't know how far things would go." Kelsey pulled out another document. Bank statements. "But the records tell a different story. Your wife transferred $62,000 to an offshore account in Damien's name. She did it 7 months ago, long before you found out about any of this." She tapped the page. "But Mrs. Whitfield wasn't a victim, Mr. Whitfield. She was an accomplice. From the beginning." I stared at the numbers on the page. 62,000, 7 months ago. We'd been married for 26 years, and she'd been planning this for at least 7 months. Marlowe's voice broke the silence. What's going to happen to her? Kelsey looked at her. She's facing charges for conspiracy fraud and evidence tampering. If convicted, she's looking at 5 to 10 years. And Damien, 15 to 25. Maybe more depending on what else we uncover. Marlowe nodded slowly. Then she asked the question I knew she'd been afraid to ask. What about me? Kelsey's expression softened just a little. You cooperated. You provided critical evidence. You testified. Because of that, the DA is recommending probation instead of jail time. Marlowe exhaled. Probation. Supervised. Probably 2 years. You'll have restrictions, but you won't go to prison. Marlowe's eyes filled with tears. But this time they weren't tears of fear. They were relief. Thank you, she whispered. Kelsey nodded. Don't thank me. Thank your father. He's the one who fought for you. Kelsey stood up, started gathering the files. Mr. Whitfield, I want you to understand something. If you hadn't figured this out when you did, if you hadn't gone public with that live stream, you'd be sitting in a cell right now. And Damien would still be out there, hunting his next victim. She looked at me. So you saved yourself, and you probably saved a lot of other people too. I didn't know what to say, so I just nodded. Kelsey reached into her jacket pocket, pulled out a business card. That's one more thing, she said. She handed me the card. It was plain. White. No logo. Just a name. Sloan Mitchell. Sloan Mitchell asked me to give this to you, Kelsey said. She said she has something for you. Didn't tell me what. Just said you'd want to see it. I turned the card over in my hands. Did she say when? Oh, soon. She said to call her when you're ready. Kelsey walked us out of the precinct. The sun was bright. Too bright after sitting in that windowless room for an hour. Marlowe stood next to me on the steps. Dad, she said quietly. Are you okay? I looked at the business card again. Sloan Mitchell. The daughter of the man who died because of Damien. The woman who'd appeared on that live stream and told the world what he'd done to her family. What did she want to give me? Yeah, I said. I'm okay. But I wasn't sure if that was true. We walked to the car. Marlowe got in the passenger seat. I sat behind the wheel. I stared at the card for a long time. Then I put it in my pocket, started the engine, and drove home. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what Kelsey had said. 4 victims. Could be more. You'd be sitting in a cell right now. At 2 a.m, I got out of bed. Went downstairs. Sat at the kitchen table with my phone. I pulled out Sloan's card, stared at her name, and then I called her. It rang twice. Mr. Whitfield, she said. Her voice was calm, like she'd been waiting. Sloan, I said. Detective Grant gave me your card. I know. I've been hoping you'd call. She said you have something for me. There was a pause. Then Sloan said, I do. But I need to show you in person. Can you meet me tomorrow, 3 o'clock? Prospect Park, near the boathouse. I hesitated. What is it? Something my father left behind, she said. Something you need to see. Judge Irene Langley brought the gavel down. The courtroom went silent. Damien Cross sat at the defense table, hands cuffed in front of him, face cold as stone. Next to him, Jerome Caldwell, Margot's attorney, leaned over and whispered something to Margot, the woman I'd been married to for 26 years. The woman I didn't recognize anymore. Across the aisle, Edmund Nash, my attorney, sat with his arms folded, waiting. Behind me, Marlowe sat in the gallery. Vernon was next to her. Silas, too. And Sloan Mitchell. The families were here, all of them. Judge Langley nodded to the prosecutor. Call your first witness. Susan Mitchell stood up. Albert's widow. She walked to the witness stand slowly. Her hands shook as she placed them on the Bible. The clerk swore her in. Susan sat down, looked directly at Damien. Mrs. Mitchell, the prosecutor said, can you tell the court what happened to your husband? Susan's voice was quiet, but steady, My husband died in prison. 2 years after he was convicted, he had a stroke, alone in his cell. She paused. He died believing his daughter hated him, believing I betrayed him, believing he'd lost everything. She looked at Damien. Damien Cross took everything from us. Our home, our reputation, our family. And then he took Albert's life. The courtroom was silent. The prosecutor thanked her. Then Susan Prescott stood up. Matthew's widow. She didn't cry. Her voice was hard, angry. My husband lost his career, his name, his will to live, all because of that man. She pointed at Damien. Damien Cross is a predator. He doesn't just steal money. He destroys families. He destroys lives. And he does it on purpose. She stepped down. Marlo was next. I watched her walk to the stand. Watched her place her hand on the Bible. Watched her sit down and look at the judge. Her voice shook at first, but it got stronger. I embezzled $85,000 from client trust accounts, she said. That was my mistake. My fault. No one else's. She took a breath. But Damien Cross used that mistake. He found out about it. He recorded me confessing, and then he blackmailed me. Edmund Nash stood up. You, Miss Whitfield, did Mr. Cross threaten you? Yes. How? He said if I didn't cooperate, he'd release the video. He said I'd lose my law license, that I'd go to prison, that I'd lose everything. What did he want you to do? Marlo's voice cracked. He wanted me to spy on my father, to give him access to my father's finances, to help him plant evidence. Did you? She nodded, tears running down her face. Yes, I did, and I will regret it for the rest of my life. Edmund paused. Did your father know about the embezzlement before Damien contacted you? No, I was too ashamed to tell him. Edmund sat down. Marlo stepped down from the stand. She didn't look at me. Then Margot took the stand. She was crying before she even sat down. Saying, I loved my husband, she said. Her voice was shaking. But I felt lonely. Damien made me feel seen. He promised me a new life. The prosecutor stood up. Mrs. Whitfield, you transferred $62,000 from your joint account on February 3rd. Why? Oh, Damien told me to. Did you ask why? Margot hesitated. No. You didn't think it was strange. I trusted him. The prosecutor pulled out a bank statement. This transfer occurred 7 months before your husband discovered the evidence in the basement. You were planning this with Mr. Cross for at least 7 months. Isn't that correct? Margot looked down. I don't know. You don't know if you planned to frame your husband for fraud. I didn't think. You didn't think he'd go to prison. Margot didn't answer. The prosecutor sat down. I took the stand last. Edmund stood up. Mr. Whitfield, why did you choose to live stream the confrontation instead of going to the police? I looked at the jury. Because I knew Damien would disappear. He had a plane ticket to the Cayman Islands. He was leaving in less than 48 hours. And I knew the other families needed to see the truth. They needed to know their husbands, their fathers weren't criminals, that they were victims. Edmund nodded. One last question, Mr. Whitfield. Do you forgive your wife? I looked at Margot. She was staring at me. Eyes red. Face streaked with tears. I took a breath. I forgive the woman I thought she was, I said. But the woman sitting over there, I don't know her. Judge Langley folded her hands. Mr. Cross, you have been found guilty of conspiracy to commit fraud, evidence, tampering, extortion, and racketeering. I hereby sentence you to 10 years in federal prison. Damien didn't react. Mrs. Whitfield, you have been found guilty of conspiracy and fraud. I sentence you to 8 years. Margot gasped, started crying harder. Miss Whitfield, due to your cooperation and testimony, I sentence you to 18 months of supervised probation. Your law license will be suspended for 2 years. Marlo nodded, whispered, thank you. 2 officers stepped forward. took Damien by the arms. As they led him toward the door, he turned his head. Looked at me one last time. You didn't win, he said quietly. You just delayed the inevitable. I didn't respond. I stood up, took Marlowe's hand, and we walked out of that courtroom together. Summer in Brooklyn. The sun was warm, not too hot, just right. You could hear kids laughing in the park down the street. The kind of laughter that makes you believe the world might actually be okay. I sat at an outdoor table at a small cafe near Prospect Park. Coffee in front of me. Still hot. Marlowe appeared at the corner. Hair pulled back in a ponytail. Simple white shirt. Jeans. Sunglasses pushed up on her head. For the first time in months, she was smiling. She walked over, sat down across from me. Hey, Dad. Hey, kiddo. She ordered an iced coffee. We sat there for a minute. Just quiet. Comfortable. Then she said, Dad, I got a job. I looked up. Yeah. I'm at Sloan Mitchell's law office. I'm going to be a paralegal until I can get my license back. I smiled. That's great, Marlowe. Really great. She nodded, took a sip of her coffee. Sloan said she wants to help other families like ours. Families that get targeted by people like Damien. And I want to help too. I reached across the table, squeezed her hand. I'm proud of you. Her eyes got a little wet. But she didn't cry. She just smiled. Thanks, Dad. I sold the house. The one in Brooklyn. The one Margot and I bought 26 years ago. The one where we raised Marlowe. The one where I thought we were building something. I couldn't stay there anymore. Too many memories. Too many ghosts. So I sold it. Moved into a smaller apartment near the park. 2 bedrooms. Quiet. Clean. No basement full of fake evidence. No cameras. No secrets. Just me. And honestly, it felt good. I was still running Whitfield and Associates. Still working with clients. Still designing buildings. But I wasn't working 70 hours a week anymore. I was working 40. Maybe less. I was spending time with the people who mattered. Vernon came by once a week. We'd grab dinner. Talk about nothing. Just be there for each other. Silas checked in every now and then. Made sure my network was secure. Made sure nobody else was trying to hack into my life. Griffin stopped by with his son Philip. The kid was doing great. 2nd year of college. Engineering major. Griffin kept thanking me for the loan I gave him years ago. I kept telling him to stop thanking me. He never did. Marlowe looked at me across the table. Dad, I know I hurt you. I know saying I'm sorry isn't enough. I shook my head. You were scared, Marlowe. I understand that now. But I should have come to you sooner. You came when you were ready. That's what matters. We sat in silence for a moment. Then she reached across the table, took my hand. I'm going to spend the rest of my life making this up to you. I squeezed her hand. You don't have to. You already did. You know, Griffin stopped by yesterday, I said. Marlowe smiled. How's Philip doing? Really good. He's in his 2nd year now, doing well in school. That's because you helped them, Dad. That's because Griffin helped me first. Marlowe looked down at her coffee. Dad, do you think Mom will ever change? I took a breath. I don't know, but that's not my concern anymore. I'm focusing on the people who matter. You, Vernon, Silas, Griffin, the people who stood by me. Marlowe nodded. That's good, Dad. For 26 years, I thought I was building something. A home, a family, a legacy. But I was building it with someone who didn't love me. And now I was starting over. And you know what? That was okay. Because I wasn't alone. I had Marlowe. I had Vernon. I had people who showed up when it mattered. And that was more than enough. I lifted my coffee cup. To second chances. Marlowe smiled, lifted hers. To second chances. We clinked our cups together. And for the first time in months, I felt at peace. When we stood up to leave, Marlowe said something that stopped me. Dad, Sloan and I are starting a nonprofit. We're going to help families who get targeted by people like Damien. People who get framed. People who lose everything. because someone decided to destroy their life. She looked at me. Will you join us? I smiled. I'd be honored. We walked down the street together, past the cafe, past the park, past the place where my old house used to be. The sun was still shining. The kids were still laughing. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. Not in a courtroom, not in a basement full of fake evidence, not in a marriage that was built on lies, but here, with my daughter, walking toward something new, something better, something real. Marlo turned to me. Dad, thank you for not giving up on me. I put my arm around her. I never will. We kept walking. And as we turned the corner, the Brooklyn skyline stretched out in front of us, full of life, full of possibility, full of hope. And to you listening to this story, remember this. I spent 26 years building a life with someone who never truly loved me. I trusted blindly. I ignored the signs. And I almost lost everything, my freedom, my daughter, my future. But God gave me 3 chances to see the truth. The first chance was Griffin, a man I'd helped years ago, a man who risked everything to warn me. God puts people in our lives for a reason. Don't ignore them. The second chance was my daughter. Marlo made mistakes, terrible mistakes. But when she was ready, she came back. God gives us second chances, and sometimes we have to give them too. The third chance was the live stream. 18,000 people watched Damian Cross get exposed. That wasn't luck. That was God showing me that the truth always comes to light. Always. This is a family story about betrayal. But it's also a family story about redemption, about fighting back when everything falls apart, about choosing to believe that people can change. Some call it a dad revenge story. Maybe it is. But it's not revenge for revenge's sake. It's a dad revenge story about protecting the people you love, about standing up when you've been knocked down, about refusing to let evil win. If you're going through something similar, if someone is trying to destroy you, frame you, take everything from you, don't stay silent. Don't wait. And for God's sake, don't face it alone. This was my dad revenge, my fight, my family story. What's yours? If this story moved, you hit that like button. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next one. And leave a comment below. Tell me, would you have done what I did? Or would you have walked away? Thank you for staying until the very end. One last thing. The stories you'll hear next contain fictional elements created for educational purposes. If this type of content isn't for you, feel free to exit and find something that fits you better. Until next time, stay strong.